We're here at the iconic home of ERCO Lighting UK at 38 Dover Street to find out what's happening here. This is a showroom that's been around for 40 years now, and it is still as sharp as it's ever been. We're here to meet Jim Ashley Down, the new Managing Director. Well, Jim, we're here in Dover Street, and it's a word that I can't help but use, that it is iconic, and it's been iconic since the day it opened.
Yeah, in 1979.
In 1979, and some of us were here at the time. In all of that time, ERCO has occupied a place which I think a lot of lighting companies would have loved to have been there. Mm-hmm. But it did it through technology, it did it through approach, it did it through that. There's what was it, light not light fittings, which is a lovely philosophy. Mm-hmm. But there's a sense now that, you've been here now for 6 months.
Yeah.
And it feels as if we've got a little bit of a, I hesitate to say reawakening, because it suggests that it's been some sort of slumbering giant, which it hasn't been. But nevertheless, there's a sense, there's something in the air. So what's going on here?
Yeah, we're looking at modernising our approach. ERCO's always been very reliant on the specification community specifying ERCO simply because, ERCO is ERCO. And we're very aware that there are others catching up in terms of quality and so on. And so, we want to look at doing things in a slightly different way. Again, ERCO has always been about innovating. So now we're going to innovate our approach to the UK and Ireland markets.
So I think we're going to be talking with Nigel Sylvester, the technical director.
Yes.
Because he's seen so many of the progressions in the technology in ERCO across the years.
Yeah.
Let's get into the table. Nigel, for those of us who've got long memories.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry, we're going to have to go there.
Yeah.
We've seen ERCO if you like, the iterations of ERCO through the decades.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm just interested in your memories and your feelings about a company that changed the shape of architectural lighting back in the 80s.
Yes.
Through, incredible to think of these days, a 100-watt GLS lamp.
Yeah.
In a downlighter.
Yeah, indeed.
But there was something very special about that downlighter.
Yeah, very much so. And the big thing about ERCO's products of the time and to date is all about dark light. It's all about dark light technology. It's this whole thing about light, not luminaires, really, where you see the effect, which is what we're aiming for, to give people great spaces. But you don't actually see the luminaire, i.e. where the light's really coming from. It becomes not important, but the result is so good. Absolutely. So, with regards to this whole thing about the dark light side of things, and what made dark light, it was all about this whole thing of having a luminaire where the light source was no longer visible, but it was all controlled by a highly specular reflector, and it was the specular reflector detail which was giving you this experience, which, to be honest, a lot of people had not seen in a luminaire of that type.
I went to Norwich to see the Sainsbury wing at the University of East Anglia.
Yes.
And I was blown away by what I saw there. Yeah. And you're right, I mean, no one has seen anything like that before. This is at a time when a downlighter was an RO80 lamp or a PAR 38 in a bezel.
Yes.
And if you're lucky, it was a cheap spun reflector with a 60-watt light bulb in it.
Absolutely.
And that's as far as it went.
Absolutely.
So all of a sudden, the bar was raised from here to here, and the architects loved it. Mm-hmm. And you put a coach and horses through lighting specification at that time. But that wasn't the end of the story.
No.
Because it happens again the next decade, doesn't it? Because now we've got halogen lamps and we've got spotlights.
Well, yeah. I mean, you built on the success of that original technology, and the influx of a halogen lamp was a even more controllable light source because of it being a capsule type of light source, especially. It allowed us to develop optics around that, which were even more efficient.
And presumably that is the thing that kicked off all the work that you've done around the galleries and around the museums that have built this reputation.
100%. The result of products like that led us into to have some very iconic projects. So with the National Gallery, National Portrait, all these big names became, just fantastic examples of how to use light, but with carefully designed product.
And then the development on the sources were driving further things. And when we get into the if you like the beginning of the third decade, where we're into high intensity outputs, energy effective fixtures, HQIs that were going into fittings that were designed originally for a 100 watt GLS lamp, but could be put twice, 3 times as high. And of course, what I'm thinking about is the volume at the British Museum. Was an enormous scope in that building. And there we are. And that brings us to LEDs. We can hardly avoid talking about LEDs. And clearly it's proven itself now. And here we are. And we've seen here with the paintings on lighting on the paintings of the Warhols there. The ability to colour tune between the two. The very idea of colour tuning. A decade ago, we would go, why would you want to do that?
Or if you did it with fluorescent lamps.
But here we are, and we've got exactly what we want. The light is what we want it to do. It's doing that job of work. And this is something for both of you. Innovation comes, I think, from both directions. It comes from designers coming in and go, I've got this crazy idea. And I'd love to be able to do this, and I've got no idea if I can do that. Or it comes from somebody in a manufacturing design office with a pencil and a piece of paper, scribbling around going, have we ever thought about doing something like this? So where's ERCO placed in that? Is that a synergistic kind of relationship that those conversations run both ways?
They do.
ERCO has both feet very firmly in each camp, because when it comes to the development of the products as an ongoing thing, it's always about where can we improve that product, how can we improve that beam, or how can we get a little bit more light in that beam, how can we grab a few more CRI into that beam. That kind of development is an ongoing thing that's just part of the ERCO DNA, but the requirement for that is driven by the market, because there's always somebody, be it an art gallery owner or a lighting designer or a workplace consultant or owner or whatever, who needs something a bit better or a bit different. And so by very, very closely working with the market, having very close relationships, a lot of our salespeople and our marketing people, they've got long relationships with people in the industry. They know each other well enough that they can learn from each other, and from our point of view, we can learn without necessarily asking what people need next by the questions that they are asking of us, and then that can be fed back into the product development chain. And so the ongoing product development is one side continuous improvement, and one side looking, well, the market needs that. There's currently not something in that hole.
Okay, now I know that you guys are talking about this thing called zonal lighting. And I'd like to move the conversation onto that if we can. Because that seems to me exactly what you just said, Jim. This is about a marketplace that is shifting, a manufacturer who's got an abundance of experience to be able to say, we can do that, but we'll probably be doing it in a way that you wouldn't be expecting.
Very much so.
And that's the innovation. So shall we move on and have a talk about zonal lighting in the workplace?
Of course. We can go have a look.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
I think I've just experienced zonal lighting.
You have indeed.
Tell me what we've just been looking at. It sounds to me like you've taken the ERCO philosophy and turned it around 90 degrees.
It almost is
Is that fair?
It almost is that, but the verticals are still incredibly important. Because all down the side of the space we also have the vertical illumination from the wall washers, but both of them are working on the dark light technology that we were talking about earlier, just done in miniature.
Yep.
So instead of having one dark light downlight, you've got lots and lots of small dark light downlights all within one fixture. And so some of them are doing the horizontal illuminance here, and some of them are doing the vertical over there. But they're still doing it in a way that you can't really tell where the light's coming from.
And this is all reliant upon the good old idea of track and spots, isn't it?
Exactly.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the design flexibility comes in being rational with the way that you use lighting track.
Correct.
And not only when you design the space, but when the client in 6 months' time or 10 years' time decides that they want to turn the desks around or move some away and they've got some more people or they've got less people, they can just move the lights as well, in the same way that you could with a traditional track and spot scheme in an art gallery, but now you can do it in the office environment.
Now there's a video of this, isn't there, with architectural practice in London?
Yes, there is, with AHMM.
Yeah. I think we might show a clip of that.
Great.
Around about now.
We need to rethink our buildings. You know, in the low carbon future. So we've got to think about reusing buildings, new buildings, and light and lighting is going to play a crucial part in that. It's the essential piece of kit that allows us to see and do what we need to do. But it doesn't need to get more complicated. The actual fittings need to get simpler and simpler and simpler. But they create theatre, which is what we want. I'm Simon Alford. I'm a founder of AHMM Architects. We're here in the White Collar Factory that we designed for Derwent London. And we're in a very specific room in that, which is the underground room that we now inhabit, a 15,000 square foot office, but with unique and delightful characteristics. Going back to simplicity, in our conversations with ERCO, in the end, we've agreed on only 2 lights. There's Atrium, which is basically a very elegant can that throws light up and down, which we actually had to carefully set on the upper level, so you weren't looking into it, but you're getting the benefit of it. So it's kind of technically quite difficult, but technically difficult to make it simple. And that can work on a circadian circuit, so it's giving you the background light. And then there's Gilly, and it's this idea that you're not looking at holes in the ceiling, you're looking at sources of light landing on surfaces. And Gilly is essentially an office version of that. And we can move it and play with it and reset it. And that's what we really like, the endless idea that you can use, reuse, and adjust.
So there is that sense that we don't really know where office lighting's going. Mm-hmm. I was reading that sort of 50% of office space is up for grabs. No one really knows what to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
This seems to me that if we're going to follow BSEN 12464 to anything like a logical and positive conclusion, we're going to have to go this way, aren't we?
Yeah, and especially at the beginning of the process, because one of the pitfalls of the way the office lighting market has been working is that when you have the developers or the contractors or landlords, whoever, lighting a space, they don't know who the tenant is going to be necessarily. Sometimes they do, but mostly they don't. And because they don't know that, they don't know what the layout of the space will be, they don't know where the work zones will be, where the breakout areas will be, and all of that kind of thing. So by putting in track or some similar kind of infrastructure, it could be monopoints or whatever, they don't have to put in the actual lights. So they can light the space to a minimum level that enables people to come in, and then they can tailor it to their individual requirements. That could require buying more lights, but then that becomes something that's tailored to that specific space. So that gives you a win on 2 fronts. Firstly, you're not using more raw material, you're not putting in 300 lights when you only actually need 200 lights, but also you're not lighting everything to the same level, so you're saving a huge amount of energy to boot.
So are we going to be promoting this as a Cat A fit out alternative?
That's the idea,
Yeah. So and you'll just put in the track.
Yes, it's perfect as a Cat A fit out, and that should be attractive to contractors as well, because they don't have to put as much money up front.
And because of the control strategy you're using, it's just a hardwired track turn it on,
Correct.
turn it off, because all the magic.
Is happening in the luminaire.
And wirelessly.
Correct.
All of the control is wireless.
Yeah.
Now, the important thing about all of this,
Yeah.
with all the chat that we've had, a great conversation today, is it only works if you can get people into Dover Street to look at those specifications, to bring the spirit of ERCO back into their work. So what do you do to get, let's face it, a very reluctant design community out from, some of them still working out of their bedrooms, to get them into Dover Street? We've got, you've got a history of events, you've got a history of evening stuff, of sort of social gatherings and all the rest of it, and the wine flowed freely. So what can we expect to see from you?
Well, one of the important things there, I mean, as you say, a lot of people still working out of their bedroom or their kitchen or their shed or wherever they happen to be, they don't have the hands-on experience. So like we were saying earlier, with upstairs in the demo room, that people can come and see the light, see what's happening with the light, and then if they want to, they can get the product in their hands and play about with it. That's an important part of the design process. I'm an ex-lighting designer. I know how important it is to understand what the light fitting is, what's happening with this, how does the technology work. And yeah, you can send a sample to someone on in the post, or you can go and do a presentation in their offices. But it's not the same as being able to deal with everything that they might ask on the spur of the moment. Because we've all been there, we've been in a demonstration in a client's place and said, and we can do this, and they go, yeah, but what about that? And then you're there and you go, well, yeah, I'll have to come back to you on that. But when you're in the showroom, you can say, oh, well, it's funny you should ask. I have one here. And that's exactly what we can do. And then when they say, yeah, okay, well, I came to look at this type of wall washing, but maybe I want to think about doing something different. Maybe I want to do some spots on the wall. And we can say, well, here you go, beep, beep, beep. Hey, presto, it's all there. And that's one of the beauties of the showroom. So the hands-on experience is going to become, I think, more and more important, especially with less people working in a central location, that, you know, we can bring them together in our place. Some lighting design practices, some architect practices now, they don't even have an office.
Yeah.
You know, there is no central location that they can meet and have a team meeting. We can offer them that facility. You know, we can say, come and have your monthly team meeting here, and while you're at it, we'll show you a few things. You know, that's the payment. And that works in both ways. And then, you were saying about the events and the other things that we can do, we're going to be doing a lot more events, but we're going to be tailoring them to be something interesting. The events are absolutely not going to be about product. It's not going to be, we've just launched this, come and have a look at this. It's going to be about light, but more importantly, how light interacts with something else.
Yeah.
So it could be light plus this, it could be light plus that. And it's always about how light is existing in this big industry that we work in, that could be something, you know, like an office, it could be an art gallery, it could be a restaurant, it could be a residence. All of those things have to be looked at in different ways. So if we can make engaging events that people can come to and learn something beyond the light, you know, maybe the light education is 20% of it, and the other 80% is something that they've never come across before, or they only have the vaguest notion about, then that's what can be really interesting for people, that you're expanding their knowledge, not just telling them about your latest new product.
Yeah.
So, okay, there's something, as you've been talking about that, just a thought crossed my mind that we're in Dover Street, we're in the heart of London, we're in the heart of the Southeast design community, but there's an awful lot of England and Scotland and Ireland and Wales that find it difficult, find it too costly, tight in terms of time and money. Is there an outreach program at all?
Yeah. We're taking it on the road. So we're starting to do regional events as well. We have our first ever regional event coming up in a few months' time in Belfast, and that's going to be the showroom experience, but in somebody else's showroom. So in this particular instance in Belfast, we're renting a small art gallery that coincidentally we did the lighting in. But we're renting out this small art gallery. I'm going to drive over there with a van full of kit, and we're going to fill the space with kit, and we're going to turn it into an interactive experience. Again, it's not going to be a presentation. We're not going to take the kit there and say, here's our Eclipse, here's our pass scan. We're going to say, here's a load of different lights. You can do wall washing, and you can do spotlighting, and you can do office lighting, and then just let them at it. Let all these people loose. M&E consultants, lighting designers, architects, whoever happens to be on the invite list, they'll come along and they can play with the kit. And we're going to be doing that probably 3 or 4 times a year in various locations around the country.
Nigel, from your point of view as a technical director, this is the kind of work that puts a lot of work on your desk.
Oh yeah, just a bit, just a little bit.
But Jim and I have talked about this before. That relationship between the designer and the manufacturer, the symbiosis that works between the two, that delivers a better project, always delivers a better project.
Always.
And that is something that has got to involve the technicalities of things. It's not just looking in the catalogue and going, "Ooh, that I can see what that one does."
That's one of the biggest challenges and exciting things that happens here, because you have to, it's a very, very much, we call it a very technical product.
Yeah.
Jim's quite right. We're not here to talk 100% about this is an Eclipse or whatever it be. It's about getting people to understand what it is that they're buying into, what it can do for them in terms of lighting per se. And the reality of it is that we've now got great product which can do now far more advanced things than we could do 40 years ago, because we're starting back 40 years ago, we're coming back to now. We have a situation where we've got technology that allows us, because we're not conformed by a lamp. See, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Again, without digressing too far, we have never tried to follow someone. Ultimately, if everybody wants to go down a modular LED route, call it that, ERCO seemed to go to the left-hand side, which was we're working on the LED itself because it allows us freedom of design.
Yeah.
And that's really where we've been, and that's where we will continue to be. And there are things coming through in the future. Where are we going in the future? That I think anybody who sees some of that stuff that's coming will realise that this is why it's important to recognise what companies like ERCO are in the industry for. We're innovative, and we want to stay that way. And it's what keeps me excited about being here after 28 plus years, so.
Part of what we've been talking about today, the zonal lighting, the ongoing technology, you're breaking new ground. You're breaking into new markets. I mean, let's face it. If somebody wants to know how to light, how ERCO can light a gallery,
yes,
there are galleries all over the place. Go and have a look at that.
Absolutely,
and you can see what we do.
Absolutely,
there are probably 50 within a 5-minute walk.
Exactly. Yeah, quite.
Absolutely.
So when we start looking at those new markets, it sort of brings that pressure back. How do we know? How do we know? And that is the regionality of those, because you are now looking to big estates, universities, and stuff like that. And at that point, it's almost as if we are going back to ERCO in early days, because you're going to people who ERCO, don't you make furniture? No, that's ERCO. Yeah. So what do you do? Well, we can do all of this.
Yeah.
So 40 years of reputation gets wrapped up into a conversation. Can you tell me what you do?
Yeah.
Because we're now talking to people who don't know you.
And some of that is because there are so many more players in the market now.
Yeah.
So whereas ERCO used to be one of the few, and whatever ERCO did or whatever ERCO said was therefore very, very obvious, there are now so many people in the market saying so many things that although we've not necessarily stopped doing what we're doing, we've become a smaller percentage of everything that is being done. So we need to ramp up the volume.
Yeah.
And that's part of the strategy with the regional events, for example. Also, that goes hand in hand with the decentralization of the design industry in particular, that now some of the most important projects are being designed by people in Manchester or Birmingham or wherever. You can't always expect London to be the central hub of specification that it was in the past. The ambition of ERCO in the UK is to get back to that status as being one of the loudest voices. So it's not that we've gone backwards. We've continuously been innovating, continuously been leading, but the perception in the market has been, because there's so many other people out there, that we're no longer in that position, although actually we are, in our opinion.
Yeah.
So the ambition of the company, sell more stuff, obviously, but the real ambition is to get ERCO back up there as a name to the position it used to hold before the market started expanding.
I think you'll also find that we as a company will end up more prominent, I believe so anyway, in areas where we haven't been so prominent in the past. So if you look at the office sector, the tools we use and talked about today already, they're stuff that was talked about 40 years ago as ERCO. Vertical illuminance, all these things which are critical to today's methods of lighting space. You're going to see products from us with the flexible office, for example, which are going to definitely give us an edge. I believe that. And if people also can understand what is in the product as part of the overall offering, so they are more educated about what it is to buy into an ERCO product of some sort, and also the end result is to buy into what ERCO does in terms of lighting space, they're going to realise far more than they know at the moment. Because I think there is an education required outside that needs to be lifted a bit to know a little bit more about what it is we as a company stand for.
Yeah.
It's very much a holistic business that we are in.
Well, I'm going to look forward to this, because
Yeah.
I think this is going to be really, very exciting. So I'm going to thank you both for your time. Nigel, thank you very much.
Any time, it was brilliant.
Jim,
It was brilliant.
as ever, thank you very much for your
thank you,
time, and onwards and upwards.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed.
Thank you.